Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to really thank Mel for inviting me. Brookhaven Lab has done an amazing job, I think, as far as trying to get people in tune to the environment. And the program that Mel's running here, the day in the life of started as the day in the life of the Carmens, and it went into the day in the life of the Peconics. It's really, to me, it's really important. And a little bit about myself. I grew up in Peconic, and on a farm. I'm a fourth-generation farmer. And when you grew up in Peconic, you go down to the end of the road, and you go to the bay, and you go down to the end of the other road, you go to the creek, and you go down to the end of the other road, and you go to the sound. And you kind of take that kind of waterfront access for granted. And in the late summer, in fall, you went crabbing at night and eeling. When the creek froze over, you went eeling through the ice, and in the spring, when the lilacs bloomed, everybody went week fishing, and you kind of thought that's the way it was always going to be. And things changed a lot in my lifetime. And I grew up on a farm. I went to school. I have a degree in plant science, and I really appreciate what everyone's done here. And because I have a degree in science, I can understand a lot of what you're doing and where you're headed with a lot of the projects. And I'm really impressed with where you're headed with the projects. You've given it a lot of thought, and you're really going in the right direction. And I have to say that I never thought, I'm the Suffolk County Legislator in the 1st District. I never thought I would I'm a plant science major, not a political science major, so I never thought I would get into government. And when I got out of college, and I came back to Cutchogue, and I really wanted to be the great American farmer, and we were going to raise a lot of cauliflower, and it was going to be, like my father and grandfather did, and that was going to be it. But my high school science teacher, Frank Kioski, he's a chemistry teacher, who's since passed away, and then Paul Stoutenberg, who was he was like a cutting edge, a first modern trustee in Southold Town, and he kind of raised everyone's awareness of how important the natural environment was, and how the dredge was it was cutting channels and filling in the wetlands and destroying the marshland and cutting off the supply of fresh water into the salt water. And they asked me to run for town trustee, and I didn't know anything about Democrat or Republican or any of that. My family was never active, and I never paid much attention to it. And they convinced me to run. They said, well, if you're going to come back and live here, you really should get involved. So that was 1983, and I got 1983, by the way. Thank you for the record. and when I got involved, it was the North Fork hadn't changed much in a long time, and the development pressure was really mounting. And there was a lot of pressure to build on the waterfront. There was a lot of rebuilding on the waterfront. There was a lot of pressure. The little catwalks were turning into large wharfs and large piers. There was issues of not only the environment, but public access. And I'll get into the open space stewardship and public access in a minute. But so we addressed all these issues in the face of all this development pressure. And then I was on the town board. I was a trustee for 20 years, then I was on the town board for 7 years. And the opportunity came to run for county legislator. It was something that, again, I had never really considered, but it was an opportunity, and I ran in 2012 in January and got elected. And the district runs from Fishers Island, all of Southold Town, all of Riverhead Town, including into Brookhaven, including the lab here, down into half of East and half of Center Moriches. Geographically, it's the largest district in the county. And there's 18 county legislators spread out throughout the county. And so I came from Southold, where we kind of had a culture of really, the culture there really is that the economy is the environment, and the environment is the economy. And then Suffolk's so diverse. And so it's been a real different experience for me working with all my different colleagues, working with a much larger county, 1.5 million people in the whole county. And it's been a very good experience, I have to tell you. And I've met a lot of people who really care about the natural world. And I think that's what that's a lot of what this program is really about, is making sure people are connected, making sure that they understand what we have here on Long Island. So when it comes to open space stewardship, when you preserve land, there's a farmland preservation program, and some of the land that we own is preserved, which means that we can't put houses on it. We still own it, we still pay taxes on it, and we maintain it. When a municipality, whether it's a park district or a town or village or a county or state, owns land, then they have to manage it, okay? And you hear about all these different issues. The southern pine beetle is one that's just come up. You know, the wildfires are kind of a reoccurring problem. You got a problem with the deer management with the browse and how the deer are destroying the natural habitat because they're overpopulated and they destroyed bird nesting areas, and they increase runoff because the natural vegetation's gone. And you have all these management issues. That and you have human issues, dumping, you have, you know, people set fires, and they cause that kind of damage as well, and you have to police the open space. But one of the main reasons that I think is very important, and I think I saw some of it addressed here, a lot of the different programs that you did and a lot of the different experiments were based on you getting to the water and being in the water and taking samples. And certainly the day in the life of the Peconic is 800 students one day at the Bay, at Veterans there in Mattituck. And Oliver did a great job documenting it. But we kind of take that access, I think, for granted, because you go down to the beach, and you can just go to the beach, and it's everywhere you go. Now that's Park District. So if I actually live in Cutchogue, and they let me on. Please, I hope that's not a problem. But it's Mattituck Park District. So that kind of public access is really important. So wherever you're going to the water, whether it's a freshwater wetland, and someone was doing a project on the milfoil population in Yaphank Lake, you need access to that water, whether it's to boat or kayak or swim or to collect samples for a project. And it's really important that you make sure that the local government or the county government or the state government provide that kind of access to the public. Because there's really two kinds of property rights: private property rights, and then there's a public property rights. And it's important that the public always has access to those natural areas. And I just wanted to end really by saying, because I could talk about a lot of different, and as I went around I made a few notes because there's so many different interesting projects, but there are really too many to talk about individually. But I just wanted to end by saying, you know, when I was your age, and all of us here in the front row were once your age, believe it or not, you kind of look at the world and you see the guy up here in the suit talking, and you think, okay, that's nice. When is he going to be done? But really, we all started out as a student, and certain things in your life happened to make them get interested in different things. And so if you want to be interested in science or technology, and someone who's going to go to school for engineering, that's really important. But you have to, when it comes down to the way policy and laws are made, you have to be one of the decision makers also, because when you see how money's spent, and I always tell young people when I speak to young people at schools, that you have to get involved in government because we're spending your money. So it's really important for you, and even if you don't want to run for office, you should be involved in local government and make sure that your concerns are heard, because otherwise the work that you do, the interest that you have, you know, it'll never happen and things will go in a different direction. So please, to all the students here, and congratulations first of all to all the parents, but to all the students, keep up the good work. You're our future, and you know, look outside the box. Don't think that just because today is today, that's the way it's always going to be. It won't be. Things will always change, and you can make them change for the better.